broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Thursday, June 30th, 2011, the last day of the quarter, second quarter, the last day of the first half. We'll go to our main news. The season's first Atlantic hurricane appeared. It's Hurricane Arlene. It's now a tropical storm. It's inland over Mexico right now. It's got wind speeds of about 65 miles per hour. It's mainly expected to be a rainmaker. It's going to generate about 15 inches of rain over the mountains of eastern and northeastern Mexico, which may lead to flash floods. There is still a hurricane watch along portions of the eastern shore of Mexico. That's expected to be lifted sometime later this afternoon. Meanwhile, there was an earthquake in the Nagano prefecture of Japan, actually 3 of them. Quake struck near the town of Yamagata about 8:16 a.m. today, Japanese time. It was a 5.7 on the Richter scale, and then there were 2 more after that. One was a 5.4 and a 3.1. Injured about 11 people and rocks and buildings. It was a very shallow earthquake, but there doesn't seem to be too much damage. Lloyd's is indicating right now that they are going to impose penalties on managing agents who do not adhere to the Solvency II standards as laid out in the original implementation deadline of 1/1/2013. This comes as a definite counter surprise, if you will, to the moves made by the European Union of late, in which they're going to be pushing it back for another year until 1/1/14. Lloyd's has spent a great deal of time, money, and resources getting their people in shape to go ahead and meet the new deadlines, and I guess they're saying that we want to go ahead with it. Lloyd's Finance Director Luke Savage told the briefing this morning that 90% of Lloyd's managing agents agreed that Lloyd should press ahead with the current timetable. Just before we came on the air, Insurance Insider announced that in fact Lloyd's went one step further and said that they are contemplating penalties on people within the community who do not meet the timetable. This could put them in the rather unusual situation of them having met the requirements emanating from Europe first, penalizing their people for not implementing the requirements back in the original European initial timescale, while the Europeans in fact end up pushing it back 1 year. From Lloyd's perspective, it makes sense. They've spent the time and money on this. Why not gain a competitive advantage from it? Lloyd's General Counsel Sean McGovern said that Poland, which takes over the presidency of the European Council of Ministers this week, is in fact committed to meeting the original 1/1/2013 deadline. We're going to be interviewing Mr. McGovern early next week, and we'll ask him about this. In the UK yesterday, there was a big civil strike. It was a replica of what's been going on the continent for the past couple of months as austerity measures are introduced. This one saw civil servants and British teachers staging a 1-day protest over austerity measures proposed by the government. About 3,000 schools in England were closed, and about 750,000 workers in total ended up walking out. It affected airline travel, train travel, etc. Gary Prestia, Chief Underwriting Officer from North American Underwriting for Flagstone Re, says that he's seeing renewal increases for reinsurance premiums jumping by about an average of 10%. He said we're seeing more or less a repeat of the 1 June renewal cycle. He said the July renewals are much smaller. They're only about a sixth of the market. But we see roughly a 10% increase in pricing. It's a lower increase in the lower layers, about 5%, and a higher increase in the upper layers of 15%. He also noted that because of the storms in the U.S. that maybe ran up about $20 billion of insured losses in April and May, that some regional American carriers seem to have exhausted part of their CAT program and they're looking for backup. OIL down in Bermuda indicated that although their net profit fell about 29% to $782 million, they had a pretty good year. With no major North Atlantic hurricane losses last year, OIL was able to concentrate on implementing its new windstorm cover and pay an additional $444 million in claims from the '05 hurricanes of Katrina and Rita. Those storms cost OIL $2 billion in claims overall. OIL had very little exposure to the Deepwater Horizon Macondo disaster, fortunately. Since its inception, OIL has paid out a total of about $12 billion in claims. And down in Australia, IAG has maintained its previously announced profit margin target of 8 to 10%. This in spite of the June earthquake, an aftershock actually, that struck Christchurch, New Zealand. IAG that expected a maximum associated net claim of about 65 million Australian as a result of the June quake. They're going to get about $50 million back in recovery under their aggregate reinsurance cover, so they're comfortable sticking to that 10% profit margin figure. That's all the news for today. If you have any breaking